All right, so let's talk about this all Vox bus here. Now, as you can see, I have all these buses where all my vocals are going. And I wanted a way to process all of them at the same time, and you can also adjust the volume of all of them at the same time. I'm going to right-click, add bus for selected tracks. I created this bus. I renamed it, colored it, and here it is. So now they're all going out to the all Vox bus. Now, when you originally do this and you have all your tracks, you probably set up some effects. Just know that your effects are probably going out to your main in whatever program you're in. If you're in Pro Tools, it's handled a little differently. Well, you need to ensure that if I leave it like this, or you leave it like this, and I've seen even professional people do this on YouTube and other places, as I automate this volume here for all my vocals, since I do not have these going to the all Vox bus, what's going to happen is it's going to mess with my wet-dry balance that I've eloquently set up on all these tracks. So as this comes down, guess what? If I turn this all the way down, watch what happens. Sunshine in my life. You still hear that hook reverb that's going on? Well, that's messing with the balance of the reverb. So you need to ensure that you have these set to your all Vox bus. That way, all the balances that you set with all these little sliders here in your sends, though you're not messing with them. Now that we got that out of the way, let's move on. First up in my all Vox chain is the Kramer tape by Waves. Love this plugin, sounds really good. And the thing you need to be concerned with is this right here, your record level and playback level. I link them, that's what I do. And what happens is, as I push this, it's going to push my vocals in. Let's just say this is what's happening. It's hitting the tape harder with my vocal level, so I get more saturation. It's also adding a little bit of compression to the audio. Sunshine in my life, watch the clouds flow by. Yes, some days in my mind I'll be doing. So you listen, I'm listening to this while I'm playing the instrumental and everything. Everything's going when I'm doing this because I'm listening for something. I'm listening for a certain kind of sound that I'm trying to get. So I got the repro on. I got the 15 inches per second right here, and I'm using over for the bias. This section isn't being used because the delay is off, but you can also throw in a little slapback delay on your vocal if you wanted to, but I'm not going to get into that. I had the noise off. I don't want any noise or wow and flutter, and I got the flex set to 250. That's the settings I'm using in this instance. Sunshine in my life, watch the clouds flow by. Yes, some days in my mind. Barely hitting the tape. This plugin is a CPU hog, but so just make sure your computer can handle it if you're going to be purchasing this or trying it out. Next up is overall EQ for all the vocals. All I did was now this is the yin and yang of EQ, okay? So this is where a little trick comes in. Now, if I want to add some sparkles, some high end, some nice little shininess to a vocal to make it stand out a little bit, I have a couple options as far as adding some high frequency. I could just reach for a high shelf and boost the high shelf, but I don't really want to boost stuff that isn't there. What I wanted to do was I wanted to do a low shelf removal but keep the high frequencies. So I'm not adding too much high frequencies. I'm basically removing a lot of the low frequency stuff. And not that much. I did it very subtle. You just see here I got this shelf right here all the way up to here to basically shape it and get rid of a lot of that low frequency stuff. Everything below that frequency cutoff is basically being attenuated, and all I'm doing is keeping the high frequencies, right? But it's not real drastic. It's very subtle. And then over here on the other end, I have this one here that's kind of like just bringing it in just a little closer to smooth that out. And then I add a little bit of a shelf right there on that end. So I was able to get more of my shelf by using a low shelf to basically make it seem like my high shelf's higher, but it's not. I'm not adding stuff that's not really there. I'm not increasing those frequencies. So it's a little trick you can use. Basically a low shelf to remove a lot of the lower frequencies. It has almost the same effect as doing a high shelf or adding some high frequencies, but it sounds a little different for the sound that I was going for. Up next, I have some de-essing going on for all the vocals. Sunshine in my life, watch the clouds flow by. I did that after the Pro EQ because I brought up some of those higher frequencies. Sunshine in my life, watch the clouds flow by. You notice it's barely working, and I had it set like that because I don't want to go and chase my tail by adding all this nice sparkly frequencies when this is just going to kick in, and since I'm using a high pass mode, and totally destroy everything I just did. So that's why it only kicks in when it needs to on really loud stuff. Next up, I have the T-Rex emulation of the Neve 1073. And I'm using this for two things. I'm using it for the preamp section, which I love how it drives the vocal, and I'm only using it just a tad. I drive it with this one, and then it's going to increase the volume, so then I re-bring it down so that it's pretty much level. Now, you're going to notice a change in the loudness, even though I turned it down the same amount, because of the saturation that it's adding, which increases the apparent loudness. But it's added a nice saturation that I like. You can really push this real hard until it starts to get distorted, and you can add some nice crunchiness to some things. So I really love this plugin. I'm also using the high shelf. It sounds really good on this plugin. So I'm just using the high shelf of 1 dB, and then I'm driving it, as you can see, about right there, 3. That's what I chose for this instance. So I'm adding just a little bit more top end on the vocals and driving them into this plugin. So that is all the processing that I have on all the vocals. All right, so that's affecting all vocals that are being sent here, are going through all these plugins and getting all the same treatment. So basically, all I'm doing with all the vocals is adding some tape saturation, doing some final EQ tweaks, some de-essing, and bringing them with a good, nice sound that I'm looking for.